We are only 3 weeks away from the fantasy football playoffs, and it has now become crystal clear that the answer to the 4-5 turn in drafts was just to take Tet McMillan and George Pickens. This is stat chasing.
Pat Fryer Helmuth.
This is why I'm hot.
Anita Handjob.
Fix your sight.
Jamar. Alpha play chase.
Are you kidding me? Kadarius Toney?
You can't handle the heat.
It looks like we're finally piss boys. You're right.
You know what's funny is I think just a week ago in the Leg Up Rankings chat, we were talking about drafting Tet McMillan over George Pickens, and I was just kind of victory lapping how much George Pickens I have and saying, imagine taking Tet McMillan over George Pickens. And interesting.
Everybody said I was taking Tet McMillan over George Pickens.
Interesting full disclosure. I have a ton of both, but I do have more George Pickens than Tet. I just wish I had more.
I think
of both
I do
of them
too,
now.
actually.
Yeah, I mean, the part of the reason why you do have more George Pickens than Tet is, I believe, reluctantly, every single time that we were in a draft, I was twisting your arm to draft George Pickens many we ahead of where we needed to take him, and you would ultimately capitulate and say, okay, we can take him here.
I think we, where did we end up? Like 30%. I think I would have had like 18%.
No, you were definitely on board. It was not like I was making you eat your vegetables. It was just larger helping.
It wasn't one of those like knife fights over a pick that we have where we're where we're like start questioning our friendship after like a few rounds. But on that note, we should get to the charts. And so we had a Bryce Young spike week where it almost reminded me of how Bryce Young ended 2024, where he's just hitting on everything. He's dropping back a lot. He's hitting dimes. I don't have a lot of confidence in my own football takes, but one of my few football takes is that he's very good at finding the seams in zones. It's when he's against man coverage and he has to kind of like fit it into a tight window that he falls down. And I do wonder if the Falcons just played a lot of zone and he was able to pick them apart that way.
Interesting. Yeah, I haven't looked into that. I was kind of curious as to what happened. I think in general, it just seems like the wheels are starting to fall off for the Falcons. Certainly on the offensive side of the ball, but that's conversation for another chart. I'm curious what you think of the Bryce Young spike week. I agree with you that it was reminiscent of how he finished down the stretch from last year. I have a funny comparison, and I honestly can't even make it in good faith, but I'm going to do it anyway. So Bryce Young, pretty close on the chart to Caleb Williams. What is the real difference between Bryce Young and Caleb Williams for fantasy?
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, probably the big difference is that Caleb Williams is able to do that level of mediocre play over pretty large. I was gonna say he has more dropbacks, but is the chart going to prove me wrong that
he does? Caleb has ever so slightly, like less than one more dropback per game.
I don't know. So there's Caleb. So Caleb is more efficient, and more yardage, and more dropbacks. So I guess other than that, they're the same.
And he runs more. I mean, honestly, many of where I've gotten torched by my Caleb is bad takes, and like when I've been fading him in DFS or things like that, is he will be bad. He'll be terrible for the whole game, and then he scrambles for a third. He finally decides I'm allowed to go beyond the line of scrimmage on this scramble. I've done enough of this spin out and run for 20 yards behind the line of scrimmage and throw a completely off target pass 25 yards down the field and miss my targeted receiver by 5 yards. This one I'm going to run. And then he runs for 20 yards. It's like, that was pretty good. That's half a touchdown right there. Or he, runs it in the end zone and, scores 10 points in a single fantasy play from, 40 yards out or something ridiculous like he did a couple weeks ago. So I even me as like the card carrying member of the Caleb Williams hater fan club couldn't make that argument in good faith that Bryce Young and Caleb Williams are not any different. I think really the like takeaway from this is Bryce Young does have access to a ceiling. It's just going to be kind of few and far between for him because normally the Panthers really, really are just happy, turtling up and running the ball a ton. Here they had to pass a bunch. And it's not even a sure thing that when Bryce drops back to pass, it's going to go this well. So, you have access to the ceiling. It's definitely thinner than Caleb, though.
Yeah. It is interesting though, where I would make the case that like on a game to game basis, all of these guys have a ceiling. Like I guess all with an asterisk. Like Tim Boyle doesn't have a ceiling, but we've seen games where who was the backup for the Giants, who had a massive game late last year against it was against the Colts, right?
Who, DeVito or?
It was the Giants backup quarterback who was playing in relief. And he had like Danucci, I think his name is. It was one of the like Italian American quarterbacks, I think.
Yeah, I think Tommy DeVito.
Tommy DeVito, yes. Danucci, DeVito.
Danucci is my XFL superstar. That's won a lot of money slamming Danucci in XFL.
But I guess probably the most realistic takeaway is just that within reason, any of these guys can get there on a given week. Yeah.
The next note I had on the chart was a guy who seems to get there every single week since he's taken over as the starter, and that's Jacoby Brissett, who's basically Jacoby Brissett and Joe Flacco lately Flacco's been.
I comp him to like he's like Jamiz last year.
Yeah, he's very Jameis coded. He's just slinging it. Sets the record for single game completions in this game. Honestly, I went back and looked at some of the Seahawks stuff because on our show last week I said something to the effect of Brissett was finally exposed and he was bad, and he really wasn't that bad. It was just like, yeah, you have a guy in your face in the backfield and you are like there just really wasn't a ton for him to do. It was like almost inevitable that the bad plays were going to be bad for him, or like you could swap out any number of quarterbacks there.
57 attempts, average time to throw of 2.58, and then he completed 47 of 57 passes for an 82.5% completion rate on a 2.58 time to throw. I'm just backing up your point here, where it's like that's pretty good. Like I get where you're coming from, where I get your Joe Flacco take as well, where it's like a backup who can just handle an insane amount of volume and do okay with it.
It's kind of crazy how bad Kyler is. Like you got to be Jacoby Brissett was so bad last year for the Patriots. Like absolutely terrible, like unwatchable levels of bad. Thought that might be curtains for him. And he's out here playing substantially better than Kyler. I mean, there's no way they go back to Kyler now. I think they have to figure out a way to move Kyler in the offseason. You can't.
Yeah, that's what the noise has been.
Well, walk me through, how does it go any other way in the offseason? You can't go into 2026 saying, hey, Kyler, remember when we benched you for Jacoby Brissett? Well, you're going to be the guy now. We couldn't figure out anything better. Like, you're going to get like the team is going to mutiny. The team can't, have been part of this season watching how horrible Kyler failed. I mean, shit, Trey McBride's going to mutiny like that. It's
Right.
like, absolutely no way are you going to tank, my ability to get a massive contract by having Kyler Murray be my quarterback again. So I mean, I have to think that Kyler is, the vet.
There's got to be a suitor as well. The contract is tough. The Cardinals are going to have to give eat some of the salary, but there's got to be a suitor there.
I mean,
there's enough teams desperate at quarterback.
Jets are desperate enough. They probably could be in the market.
Jets notoriously stupid when it comes to quarterback contracts.
Yeah, they're a great fit. I'm trying to think who else is. I mean, God, you know what could actually work? Like a team that has the room for. I mean, not a ton of room, but they don't have a quarterback contract on the books right now that would prevent them. Is the Vikings?
Yeah, I agree. I when you said not a ton of room, but they don't have a contract QB on the books. Yeah, Vikings would be a great fit.
That would be one where they'd have to send a king's ransom to the Cardinals, though, just for the salary relief, basically. Like you're buying, cap space with your draft picks, which, I mean, man, for where they are at as a franchise, I don't hate it for the Vikings.
Right.
I mean, other than the fact that it's Kyler, I do hate that aspect of it for the Vikings. That's bad.
Other than, sorry, I want to cut into and there we had a comment here. Ravens are playing that slow. So actually, while we were talking, I looked this up. So the Ravens this year in neutral situations, so that's excluding the last 2 minutes of a half. It's only when the game is within 7 points either way. The Ravens are dead last in second per snap at 31.4. They are dead last in no huddle rate at 1%, and they are not dead last in pass rate, but they are at 49% versus so that's third last. So yes, the volume is pretty low for the Ravens. Obviously, we love Lamar; he's so efficient, he is a god. But yeah, the pace and volume for Lamar is pretty low this year.
Yeah, we did actually go in. We were working on playoff basketball stuff. We did adjust Lamar's range of outcomes in our sims just for how the Ravens have been playing lately. And we moved him just a touchdown. But yeah, I mean, still love Lamar. We've seen the Ravens in the past have times like this where then they figure it out. Ravens seasons often can be like a tale of two teams where, oh my God, they haven't figured it out, and then they figure it out, or it's going very well at the start of the season and then something happens where the wheels fall off. So if you're a Ravens fan, you're hoping this is one of the seasons where they figure it out as they approach the playoffs here, because they are the favorite to make it from the NFC North, because none of those teams are particularly interested in winning football games currently. So the Ravens kind of by default are seeming to get there. But
oh baby, here's the Ravens' next 4 games. They get the Jets, they get the Bengals, they get the Steelers, and then the Bengals again. Holy moly!
Yeah, no, go ahead.
They finish with the Patriots and the Packers, so that's not as juicy as a week 17 and 16. But the lead up to the playoffs through week 15. Oh man, that's pretty spicy. That's pretty nice.
So the Ravens and the Chiefs are both 5-5. I want you to guess, what do our sims have the probability of the Ravens making the playoffs versus the Chiefs making the playoffs? Both of them same record right now. Obviously, different divisions, different schedules, but
and they're playing for the wild card, obviously.
Chiefs are wild card. Yep.
I would say that Ravens are higher because they're against the Steelers, who are probably more live to shit the bed on the division, whereas Broncos less likely with that defense. And I want to say it's like Ravens 60, KC 40.
Okay, you're a little bearish on both. Ravens we've got at 80%. KC we have at 65%.
Okay.
Yeah, still KC we
That's
just have
probably heavily elo rate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of it is just, hey, these teams are good. They should win.
They're going to win
games. Of their games. All right, but back to the quarterback chart. One point of housekeeping here. A commenter pointed out last week that we didn't have Jaxson Dart on the chart, and I went back and looked and realized that he was correct. And I was like, there's no way that's right. He's in the code.
That feels like a Mendoza effect thing.
I know. I was like, Jaxson Dart's in my code. Like, I'm looking through the stuff we use to generate the charts every week. I'm like, there he is, Jaxson Dart. How is he not showing up?
I feel like we've talked about him.
Yeah. I realized that I had a typo in the spelling of Jaxson Dart's name. I had him Jaxson instead of Jaxson. And so that's on me, mea culpa. Jaxson Dart. I mean, we probably would have gassed this boy up, multiple weeks ago, and now the poor guy is concussed, and Jameis is on the chart, so I feel bad. We did Jaxson Dart dirty, but he is a perfectly cromulent quarterback from a passing standpoint. He is right about league average as far as dropbacks and efficiency. But if you look at the size of his bubble, that's a big old bubble. So he is he's
like a baby Drake May. I think that's what we called him in his first couple of games. Yeah,
baby Drake May is definitely if he can follow the same development curve that Drake May did from year 1 to year 2. I hope Jaxson Dart goes really cheap next year. He could be absolute best ball skeleton key. If we were getting Jaxson Dart in the 13th round or something, I'm gonna have a disgusting amount of Jaxson Dart, an irresponsible amount.
I really don't think he's going to be that cheap. I think it's going to be it's going to be like the Bo Nix price.
The Bo Nix. Yeah, I think you're right. You're probably right. I just wonder if the stink from the Giants kind of hangs on him, and you get a new coaching staff. I don't know. I think you're most likely right. We probably get maybe a little bit of
but it depends. It depends. Like you're saying, there could be some new, very defensive-minded head coach who says, we're going to run the damn ball. And everyone's like, oh, what about the volume? What about the volume? And it's the Giants stink. He runs a lot. There's going to be volume. Don't worry about it. That's when you're getting interested from the contrarian standpoint.
Yeah, I think maybe he takes more of a Kyler price rather than a Bo Nix price, where the pendulum swings back a tiny bit. Because I feel like this happens with the pendulum, where we had the CJ Stroud price, right? Where, oh my gosh, the rookie quarterback, so incredible, got to draft him in the 5th round, pocket passer. Then the year after that, we kind of chill out a little bit, we cool down, and then so it swings back and forth every year. I wonder if here we get Dart closer to a 8th round price instead of a something.
Yeah, I think that's what I had in mind as well, a small discount to Bo Nix, given what you said.
Yeah. Last note I had on the quarterback chart, I didn't really feel a ton changed meaningfully here to where we needed to talk about it, but one thing that did change was Brock Purdy. We get his debut back from injury. I was a little worried that just with how long the injury lingered, there might be, some risk that he just wasn't fully himself and they just rushed him back. But he looks good, looks totally, same old Brock Purdy to me. Everyone out there was eating other than Ricky Pearsall. You have a decent game from Jennings. Kittle explodes, CMC gets 1 million fantasy points. Did you have anything to add on Brock Purdy?
No. That all seems pretty fair. When does Justin Herbert get his lineman back?
Never.
Never.
They're just fucked.
I
Yeah.
assume you've seen the video where they give the PFF rankings of his various linemen, and it's like his left tackle 34 out of 36, left guard 35 out of 37, center 40 out of 40, and it's like every single one of his O-line is like one of the worst in the league.
Yeah, I mean that is in fact what happens when you lose both of your starting tackles. I mean they lost Slater before the season even starts, and then you lose all. You lose him, you get him back, and then you lose him again. That's just there's only so much depth you can have on O-line, and we've found the limits of the Chargers' depth here. You know what is a really fun stash for your home leagues? I mean, there's no way this defense is unowned because they've been a juggernaut, but if by some miracle they're unowned, or someone drops them or something along the way, the Texans are a really, really nice fantasy playoffs defense schedule. They get the Chargers in week 17, and the Chargers are not getting back anything that's going to matter there. I know their week 15 and 16 schedules are pretty good, or opponents are pretty good as well. I'll pull it up here
so
real quick.
I think they have the bye week 12. They get the Raiders, which is probably a pretty favorable matchup for the Chargers. That's one where the offense will look pretty functional. Then after that they get the Eagles. I was like, oh baby, Eagles. Then they get the Chiefs. Then they get the Cowboys. So that's probably one where maybe the revamp. All the cards, all the money on the table, Cowboys defense will actually give them a bit of trouble now, but maybe not. And then, like you said, week 17, it's the Texans.
Yeah. Texans playoff schedule is Cardinals, Raiders, Chargers. That's a pretty juicy stretch there. That feels pretty good. All right, I think that's everything on the quarterback chart. Let's move on to running backs here.
Let me zoom out. There, we are zoomed out. And so your first note here was just how do we look at TreVeyon Henderson after two monster fantasy games when Rhamondre comes back? And like you note here, they get the Bengals this week. Big cupcake matchup. Have you heard anything? Is Rhamondre expected to play this week?
I haven't seen anything. I thought he would be back because he was practicing as a limited participant last week. So I would think that he is back this week, but that's something we definitely are going to want to check later in the week as we get the more meaningful practice reports.
So Rhamondre is expected to practice tomorrow. And it sounds like he's going to start off on an LP. It's about can he get in a full participation. But that makes it. There's a pretty good chance he's back this week. Is my takeaway. And then the question is, does so obviously I think to start at least to start, Rhamondre is going to have something a little bit close to his old role, where he's the trusted veteran. They're like, we're really excited about TreVeyon Henderson development. We're so happy to see him make plays. But obviously, they the way they're talking about him, they still see him as like somebody who's he's on the development curve. He's not made it yet, which is bizarre. I do think they're doing him dirty. I really do on his rookie year, where he deserves a lot better. But I think to start with, Rhamondre is probably going to be the 1A, Henderson the 1B. But my opinion then would be that we're only one Rhamondre devastating fumble away before they're like, okay, like you fumbled enough times, buddy. Like it has to be or mega Henderson run, and they're like, okay, like we can't we have to go with Henderson. Like I think initially to start, like I said, it's gonna be Rhamondre 1A, but then Henderson takes over as we go forward.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty much in lockstep with you there. So I'll ask you a question that I think is one, that a good number of people might face something similar. So last week I was in the luxurious position of being able to choose between starting TreVeyon Henderson or Breece Hall on that Thursday night game. I didn't have enough spots to play both of them, and I fortunately picked Henderson over Breece there. This next week here, we get the great matchup against the Bengals for Henderson. For the Jets, who really knows what's going to happen with Tyrod Taylor? Do you still start Henderson over Breece, or are you concerned enough about the Rhamondre, eating into the workload that Breece probably projects?
It probably depends on the Rhamondre news. Like in a scenario where we're like, hey, Rhamondre is good to go.
Yeah, he's full. Let's just say he's full go. It was LP and then full participation.
And they were like, he looks great. He's back, baby.
Healthiest he's ever been.
I think you probably start Breece in that situation, where Breece is going to be the offense for the Jets. You obviously have the floor being not great with the offense, the systemic offensive issues, but Breece is so good, and he's probably their only real chance to score. That I think you still have it, like you still have a pretty good floor with a solid ceiling. Whereas I don't know. I don't know if I don't think I would bet on Henderson to keep the lead with Rhamondre back.
Well, I agree with your answer, and I also hate it. I was really hoping that as the foremost TreVeyon Henderson Bowl that I know, that you would talk me into doing the fun thing, but you talked me into doing the responsible thing. But we'll see how the
I mean, I'm what it's funny. What makes me a bull is that, like, hey, I think this good player is good. Like, I don't want to overreact to like some of the like game to game noise. I still think he's good, but like you said, you don't want to lose sight of the mentality of the coaching staff.
Yeah, I mean, we gotta give credit where credit is due. I mean, I consider myself, pretty. I feel like I don't overreact to stuff too much. I'm willing to adjust my priors based on new information, and I think lots of the people that were still in on TreVeyon Henderson were starting to lose faith. Myself included. I definitely thought the probability that he was bad was a lot higher now prior to his 2 breakout games. But you were steadfast. You were the true believer in TreVeyon Henderson.
Yeah, I watched the carries where the game where he had like 10 carries for 35 yards or something like that. I watched them, and I'm like, I think this guy's good. I think these are good carries. He's just not. He hasn't broken into the open field. So, like I said, I don't think my football takes are great. But I only have a couple of them, and I do. I like to think I get 1 or 2 right.
You know enough to be dangerous. That's how I feel as well. Where I'm never going to be like, the only thing that matters is what I see when I watch the games.
Right.
Like, so much of it is driven by the underlying metrics, but it's really, really shocking how far just a little bit of context goes. I mean, like the JJ McCarthy stuff.
I think where it's probably most helpful is in the low sample size stuff.
Yep.
Like in the low samples, and the JJ McCarthy is another one where it's low sample size, and it's like, okay, we don't have the sample size to be confident in data. What other information do we have at our disposal?
The nice thing is that's the easiest stuff too, because like the amount of work you're actually asking yourself to do, like,
it's very small.
Go watch every JJ McCarthy snaps. Like, all right, cool. I'm going to take 15 minutes.
3 minutes.
I'm done. I watched every single play. I digested it. This guy's cheeks. And you know what? That saved me a bunch of money by not playing JJ McCarthy for 2 weeks in DFS while other people were like, oh, well, he projects for like 17, 19 points this week. Like, nope, that is not a thing. I promise I watched this guy. That's not a thing. And yeah, same can be said for, you being able to maintain the faith in TreVeyon Henderson through, very small sample size. The next RB that I had a note on here, Aaron Jones, I just wanted to make a comment on his role here. I think it was a little unclear when he came back. Like, is it going to be more of a split between him and Mason, or how's it going to shake out? It really, really looks like they strongly prefer Jones to take the majority of the work. And they use something like north of 80% of the snaps. Mason gets a little bit, and he actually had a pretty good run. It looked like, if you remember from the beginning of the season, Mason had some like pretty electric's the wrong word, but like he had some very strong runs, where he's breaking tackles and like getting downhill, and looks like exactly why the Vikings were very excited to acquire him. And he looked like that in his limited work here, but Aaron Jones is like strongly the 1A right now. I do think this is the kind of backfield where that can shift quickly, not necessarily because, they're going to decide that Mason is better than Jones or anything like that, but just because of who Aaron Jones is as a player. He's been pretty fragile from an injury standpoint for a couple seasons now. He missed a bunch of time with injury this season. It, wouldn't surprise me at all for it to switch back to more of a 50-50 or something like that. But for right now, Aaron Jones is like clearly the guy getting the vast majority of the work. He has a good role. The fly in the ointment here is that JJ McCarthy is just taking a shit on any kind of efficiency that he's going to be able to get with his touches, just because the offense itself is very stunted.
Yeah. What's kind of interesting is that Aaron Jones, even though he had the clear lead over Jordan Mason, he had 16 rush attempts to Jordan Mason's 6, 17 routes to Jordan Mason's 2, and then was trusted to do pass blocking while Mason was not. He still I guess they didn't they ran they must have run a lot of plays where they didn't have a back playing, because he's only like a 60, maybe JJ. He 17 routes and what is it, two pass blocks on 32 attempts, and then they must still be using another. Maybe they're using another back primarily for protection.
I think I saw. I want to say it was CJ Ham, but I did see.
Okay.
I can pull it up. I did see a fullback or someone of that ilk. I'll take a look at it here real quick.
Yeah, CJ Ham played 12 backfield snaps, 3 in the slot. So
15 total, yeah.
So even though he didn't register any stats, he did take a big chunk. So I guess that's the other fly where I'd still classify Aaron Jones as like a 1A rather than like clear starter. But Jordan Mason is crushed, absolutely crushed in value right now.
Yeah.
Unless you get an Aaron Jones injury or something like that.
Yep. Yeah, I think that is the most valuable takeaway. Like, you can't, if you're starting Jordan Mason, something terrible has happened right now. Still a
value. We are actually starting at Mason Taylor, unfortunately. Maybe you can get Bucky back and or something like that, and not have to do that.
Yeah. we can do this whole segment through the lens of our main event team, because Sean Tucker is the next running back that I have a note on, and he is also filling in for us on our main event team while we just scratch and claw, hoping to make it to the sprint with Bucky Irving and Omarion Hampton, hopefully coming back. But so Sean Tucker, this is just Groundhog Day for Sean Tucker, because he did this exact same thing last season where he doesn't really get a ton of work, and then there's finally a game where they give him a bunch of work and he just explodes. I think last year he went for something ridiculous like 144 yards, multiple touchdowns. This year, similar thing, racks up huge yardage total. It looks incredible. He's very, very fast. He also has a great bit that he did back in college that he has continued now. He just hasn't had a ton of opportunity to continue it now. But when he finishes after a game, he'll go and tweet like his stat line and say, but like very, very proper, like, I am pleased with the performance that I put on the field today, all like with punctuation and shit. Like it's a great bit, So after the game against the Bills, he says, I am pleased with my performance today. So
I should hope so.
I do hope Sean Tucker gets to send more I am pleased with my performance today tweets. But I'm kind of worried, Drico, because this flash in the pan stuff happened last year and they didn't change anything. They were just like, great job filling in, champ. Back to the bench with you. So
right.
Do you think have the Bucs learned their lesson? Like Sean Tucker is better than Rachaad White and we'll see more of him going forward? Or do you think this is going to be more ethereal like it was last year?
So, yeah, I think I think they're going to lean on Sean Tucker while Bucky is out. Yeah, we'll see when Bucky comes back. They're going to lean on him for actual touches for the most part, like carries and probably enough
targets to get the touch count up. Like you had, he had 21 touches versus 12 for White, and that spread probably grows if Bucky's out next week. But they just really trust Rashaad White as the long down and distance back. They really do. But I guess they didn't trust him so much. I'm gonna contradict myself there. They didn't trust him so much where they were actually using Bucky a lot for that. So I guess the fact that they were using Bucky as kind of more of a bell cow early in the year, and White as the change of pace guy. I honestly think that they'll use Sean Tucker to spell Bucky on two down stuff.
That's what they should. I 100% agree with you. That's what they should do, and that's what a logical coaching staff, the conclusion you would come to, because when you swap out a piece,
how dumb are they?
Right. When you swap out a piece like Rashaad White for Sean Tucker, where Sean Tucker is a threat to score the ball from anywhere on the field, Rashaad White straight up is not. Like that, and so that's just a whole different element that you get to add to your offense then, where just because Bucky is not on the field, like, doesn't make the threat of a run any less dangerous to the defense. But when Rashaad White is on the field, the threat of a run is very much unserious, undangerous. They're like, oh, please run. Please run the ball with Rashaad White on the field.
Right.
And so you just have to hope that the Bucs are savvy enough to realize. I mean, you'd have to be blind to not realize it, but man, maybe Rashaad is just such a good hang, and he says all the right stuff in the meeting rooms, and he doesn't make a lot of mistakes in practice, and that kind of stuff goes a long way, with coaches. So, but Sean Tucker definitely going to be an interesting one to watch. The last running back I had a note on here was RJ Harvey. I think it's actually pretty important to dive into this one. He's on the backups chart. We can actually go to the backups here. So
I actually before I'm looking at the trend on on Tucker and White. And so the first, at least as far as I make it, the first game that they were thrust into the spotlight with Bucky out was week 5. And it was 18 touches for White, 6 for Tucker. Then 20 touches, 6, 14, 2. And then week 8, it was 15 versus 12. 15 versus 10. And then we get 21 versus 12. I do wonder if that's like kind of a more of a slow burn of like he's been taking over from White, and if that's enough for them to be like if the I guess that being more of a sustained trend makes it more likely that they're going to lean on Tucker over White.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I'm certainly more optimistic. Now that we've got a little bit of a trend of that happening, but
right,
I'm just scarred. I'm scarred from last season, Durko. I really liked Sean Tucker as a prospect. He was fun.
I jammed him when he was a rookie.
Him. I had a lot of him. I remember when he didn't run at the combine because of the health stuff, and I wish we got combine numbers from Sean Tucker because allegedly he ran in the 4.2s on private workouts. He kind of looks like it when he's on the field.
Yeah,
that boy nice. And he was a track star, so he's got all the fun stuff going for him. Okay, but the RJ Harvey rule, I do think it's pretty important because for fantasy, it was very frustrating, right? If you were watching this game, there really was not a ton of success on the ground from him.
No.
He doesn't have any runs over 10 yards, and that's one of the things that is exciting about him is he is explosive and can break those big plays. He gets vultured by Jaleel McLaughlin. So you're just like, if you're only watching Red Zone, you see Jaleel McLaughlin get the touchdown. You've been looking at the box score. You've seen a handful of bad runs from RJ Harvey that don't really do anything. But if you actually look at the underlying usage, he gets the vast majority of the touches, and it's just Jaleel McLaughlin and Tyler Bidet just mixing in a little bit. I think Bidet and McLaughlin both got like the same amount of snaps, and Harvey was up at like season high, I believe. So
it was 14 touches for Harvey versus 7 for McLaughlin. So Harvey decidedly ahead. I think, and then the problem for McLaughlin is he's not very good. So it's like 7 is probably among the most he'll ever get. Like it's not going to 12. It's more likely that we get 5 this week than 12, I think. And those additional touches probably do go to Harvey. But I agree with you. Harvey clearly ahead. Clearly should be projected for 12 to 16 touches a week now. And he's not going to play the Chiefs every week. We'll break those explosive plays.
Yeah, after their bye, they do get Washington coming out of the bye, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly. I'll pull that up real quick. Yeah, they have Washington coming out of the bye. So that could be a good spot for Harvey to break out. Then they get the Raiders after that as well. I think the dynamic with Harvey could also be, kind of similar to TreVeyon, where he just hasn't gotten a ton of opportunity yet. He's shown more explosion than we had from TreVeyon prior to the breakout games, right? He's gotten in the end zone. He's had some explosive plays, none quite as like dynamic or electric as the huge TreVeyon plays that kind of, put the genie out of the bottle. But I think
he is getting 20. He got 20 routes, 4 pass blocks. So that's versus 2 routes, no pass blocking for McLaughlin. And I see 2 pass blocks, but I don't think and then 1 target for Bidet. So like the underlying usage is probably for more targets for Harvey, less like McLaughlin and Bidet are not going to have like an insane like 50-40% targets per run every week.
And Harvey's not going to be down at 15% every week.
Yeah, Harvey, even prior to the Dobbins injury, was getting some of the. So Sean Payton is pretty predictable in the things that he's wanting to do in his offense. It's not always predictable what personnel he's deploying to do them, but like the Marvin Mims stuff from last year, where it's like, I need a guy who can catch swing passes out of the backfield and run in space and catch passes at the line of scrimmage, basically. RJ Harvey's been doing a bunch of that this year, where Bidet was taking a little bit, but Bidet's more of like a, hey, I'm here to pass block and then I'll release as well. Where Harvey's are more designed to like, hey, you're going to run a little, you're going to run a route in the flat, or you're going to run a little swing route out of the backfield type thing. This is the exact stuff that Marvin Mims was doing last season. And, that is part of why Marvin Mims has not really seen an expanded role this season, where he's lost a lot of that and is just in this little part-time receiver role where he doesn't have that role in the backfield anymore. So I think with Harvey, there's still room to consolidate more work, where there's not really a great reason to give Jaleel McLaughlin touches, like the occasional one to spell a guy, sure, but like you don't need to give him 7 touches, like it's just not a thing that's necessary. Right. And I think if you get Harvey just needs to give them a reason to be like, hey, just let's feed this guy a little bit more. And I think he's capable of doing that. Sean Payton's still making him earn it. So overall, like the sentiment for Harvey.
His share is going up. It's not going down. It's going up.
Yep. And I wanted to highlight that, given the disappointing box score from the fantasy game for this past week against a tough opponent. I do think that, it's still trending up for Harvey. So.
Yeah, I agreed. So Tink, so I didn't actually. I don't see anyone we need to talk about here. Don't see anybody we need to talk about. I guess I've one note where this is one that I find myself playing in main event more than I want to, which is like the Bam Knight and Michael Carter stuff. I saw a tweet where basically after the McCardo went out, Michael Carter had the lion's share of snaps and usage, and probably a lot of that was just because the Cardinals were chasing the game once again, rather than I don't know. I would have liked if Bam Knight had gotten that instead of Michael Carter, but that's one where I'm struggling to figure out how to play it. And I wondered if
Bam Knight also had the ankle too.
Okay.
So I do think I agree with you that it was more it was just, hey, we're in a major trailing game script. Bam Knight's banged up and we don't even like him as a pass catcher anyway. Let's just, Michael Carter, you can get out there in this meaningless game. I would think that they are going to prefer Bam Knight, provided that he's healthy. But that's one where you probably do care a lot about the injury reports. If he's like full participant, I think you lean Bam Knight. If he is still banged up, who do the Cardinals play this week?
Good question.
I mean, no one really cares because the Cardinals just haven't mattered for so long. The Jags. They play the Jags. So that's a
tough matchup.
Yeah, that's a game where they're not inherently guaranteed to be in a trailing script, but I would expect them to be trailing. The Jags do seem to really want to pound the rock right now. Liam Cohen seems to be not enthralled with the Trevor Lawrence experience, so it could be a thing where the Jaguars are just able to run all over them, and you end up with a really good game script for Michael Carter again. But I don't think it's like for example, the Cardinals play the Rams in a couple weeks. That would be one where I'm like, that's a Michael Carter script. The Rams are about to go hang 40 on him. Michael Carter should feast here. But Jags, I think, are close enough that if Bam Knight's healthy, I think he's the one.
It could be pretty competitive.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. Appreciate you humoring me on that one. And so moving on to the tight ends. I think your first note was about George Kittle. Oh, no, it wasn't. It was AJ Burner.
Equal players, similar caliber guys. Yeah. I wanted your opinion on the AJ Barner role. He had an absolute gang of targets. Pat and I were actually looking at this tight end split as we were working on playoff best ball ranges of outcomes for these guys for the Sims. And I believe that, it looks like Arroyo is more of just like a part-timer, with Barner being the one that gets the majority of the work.
Yeah.
And
that's how it's trending as well.
There was a 1-game blip where Barner got less and Arroyo got more, but I think that coincided with the same week where Barner had an ankle injury. And then this week, you get the big Barner usage. So, but I wanted your opinion on it.
So since week 8, and I think that's what we pulled true on the chart. Since week 8, Barner has been at 80% routes. He's gotten a 25% targets per route run, and at a 3.5 ADOT. It's giving Jake Ferguson. It's giving Jake Ferguson is probably the best comp I can think of, where I don't think he's not getting a ton of air yards. Like, he only has 49 air yards in the last 4 games, so like 12 air yards a game. But that comes with 14 targets, so he's getting 4 targets a game. I guess particularly notable in the last game where he's getting fed. I mean, he's running 80% of the routes, which is pretty good for a tight end. The Cooper Kupp getting a lot of routes probably means that even though JSN is feasting, that probably frees up a lot of tight end targets for your tight end, in that you have the Cooper Kupp kind of black hole there. It's AJ Burner far ahead of Arroyo. Arroyo is getting down the field targets more often. His ADOT is 10.4 in the last month, 8.2 on the season, whereas a much shallower ADOT for Burner. But Barner's a guy. It certainly doesn't seem like, to me, that's changing.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Barner is getting double the snaps on passing plays that Arroyo is. And he's Arroyo. Let's see, overall snaps. Barner's out there for 73 of the snaps. Just basically an every down player. And then
snaps.
Yeah, and then Arroyo out there for 31 snaps, and then only 17 passing snaps to AJ Barner's 38 passing snaps. But yeah, I do think Arroyo is viable, and in showdowns in particular, he's pretty fun just because the way he's more likely to score points, like you said, is downfield. And so if you're looking for a cheap guy, which he usually is, who can deliver a big play and potentially break a touchdown, which is kind of slate breaking on showdown for the price that he usually is, Arroyo is an interesting one. But you're never really, on a main slate, you're never going to play Arroyo. In a league where you're having to set your lineup, you're never playing Arroyo. You could play Barner in a pinch. You're not, over the moon about it, but he's someone you could technically play like a worse than Dalton Schultz level play right now, but in a pinch, you could do worse.
Right, yeah. People are going to start worse players than AJ Burner in their main event team this week, for sure. There are going to be people who are wishing they got to start AJ Burner.
Yes, yeah. Now we can talk about George Kittle. I mean, this was a spot that felt really obvious to me because Kittle and Purdy just kind of have the mind meld connection. He just scores the touchdowns when Brock Purdy is in the game. And Purdy's first game back, Kittle gets in the end zone twice. I mean, it really does feel like he is Purdy's preferred target in the passing game, outside of CMC. I think it's not unreasonable to say George Kittle, has a good chance to lead the 49ers in receiving again, outside of CMC. CMC is just like an aberration where, we don't even count him. It's like, CMC is going to lead in targets and everything. But other than him, who's the next guy? And I think George Kittle's very live to do that with Purdy healthy. I mean, you get a respectable game out of Jawan Jennings. Pearsall's pretty quiet, but he runs 85% of the routes or something like that. But yeah, Kittle looks great in the first game back with Purdy. Do you have anything to add on George Kittle here?
Yeah, I mean, he's not going to score 2 touchdowns every week.
Sure?
But he is pretty live to score a touchdown every game. It reminds me of kind of like when we've gotten injuries to when Debo was on the team and when Ayuk was healthy. When those guys were injured, Kittle would feast because he's honestly very, very, very. He's like elite as a receiver, but and lots of games they don't have to use him for that, so they use him for the blocking. Whereas now they have no choice but to use him really because they don't have a lot else at receiving. So looking for a really strong down the stretch season from Kittle for sure.
Yeah, I think that's a really good note, and I want to piggyback on that he oftentimes when he's not producing, it's because he's so involved as a blocker. But there's a couple things that I think are playing in his favor as being utilized heavier as a pass catcher down the stretch. Number one, the 49ers defense is just, decimated. Like they've been absolutely ravaged by injury. And so you're much more likely to get the 49ers in these back and forth game scripts where they just have to be scoring points and they're not going to be able to run as much. Number two, their run game hasn't been as effective as it has been historically just because CMC has not been as efficient. What's funny is Brian Robinson actually looks pretty efficient when they give him the ball. It's like the 49ers run game can still work. They're just running it with the wrong player. And I know that sounds blasphemous, like not to take anything away from CMC, who's one of the greatest to ever do it, but he's starting to be in his early stage Alvin Kamara era, right? Where he's still the elite receiver, but we're starting to see that he does not have the juice in the run game anymore. And so I think that it's just a confluence of factors where all of this stuff should push the 49ers more to the pass, and then add on to the fact that now you have Purdy back, where before it was Mac Jones, and they're just trying to kind of like scrape by with whatever they can do.
I think Christian McCaffrey's very much in his Alvin Kamara era. Like if you look at his rush yards over expected per attempt, he's minus 0.67. That's 4th worst in the NFL. And that's next gen stats. Whereas Kamara is minus 0.84. So like not much better.
Yeah. So I think they really could lean heavier into the pass, and George Kittle is just that kind of like that piece where he can do either thing, but just for whatever reason, the way that they deploy him oftentimes can remove him from the passing game if they go really run heavy. But I do think that they might be incentivized to pass a little bit more here, especially with Purdy back. So he's pretty fun down the stretch. George Kittle is one where it's like, can you not just see in your mind's eye that in the fantasy playoffs, George Kittle is the guy that you have to have, where it's like, oh, this guy was super hard to advance, but all of a sudden George Kittle goes for 3 touchdowns and 8 receptions for 138 yards or some crazy George Kittle line.
That is how the playoffs work, right? Where it's like during the regular season, like week 1 through 14 is like so important. But then once you actually get in the playoffs, it's like literally, what do you project for now? And George Kittle is going to project very, very well.
Yeah, he's a fun one down the stretch for sure. Okay, last guy that I had a note on here, Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews. I don't know if you saw the play where he does the fake.
Yeah,
push.
I saw it. Of course, I saw it.
Now,
how could I not see it? But
you have
crazy.
some fun stats I want to let you get to, but I also need to add another just little flavor morsel, just a little color to this play. So Shady Advice is sweating a team in the Mega Millie this Sunday, and he says maybe 30 seconds before this Ravens fake tush push, he says Mark Andrews touchdown would be cool. And then they line up for the tush push, and Mark Andrews houses it on a fake tush push. Just insane. That team ultimately binks the Millie for Shady. I don't think I've ever seen someone do that. Just that level of wizardry where you call for what you need, and then it comes in. Like if you were writing The Sims for to model probabilistically what are the odds of a Mark Andrews rushing play for 40 yards or whatever it is out of that formation when they call the tush push there, that situation down in distance, you've got to have that at like 0 or 0.001% or something, like
0.
Like the distribution of like the length of the Mark Andrews rush there. I don't think 40 is in the distribution, just like such absurd stuff. So shout out to Shady. Congratulations to him. That was a very fun play to get to watch right after he performed his weird.
I didn't know that. Cool. That's very cool.
Yeah. But now the floor is yours. Regale us with all the fun Mark Andrews stats.
So this was obviously in this year, 2025, this was Mark Andrews' fastest ever recorded speed, on-field speed, where he hit 20.09 miles per hour. Now, you compare that to the Jameson Williams touchdown, the 40-yard touchdown. So Mark Andrews, 35-yard rush touchdown. Jameson Williams had a 40-yard receiving touchdown. His was 20.19. So like 1/10 of a mile per hour faster than Andrews. So like very, very little. Sean Tucker, who we said won what was it, track star, he was 21.09. So just to put in perspective, like you remember the big long run that J.K. Dobbins had last year, and we were like, yeah, but it was only 16 miles per hour. Mark Andrews 20. Like I'm kind of blown away. I thought he'd lost his fastball, but clearly he is just as fast as ever.
No, yeah, big fella can move. I mean, there's probably something about a fake tush push that really gets you up. You gotta score that. Like when they call your number on that, that's one where
you do the swing around. You got the swing block and pulling guard in front of you, and Charlie Kolar, and it's like nothing but green grass. Like you got, like you said, you got to get up for a situation like that.
Yeah, happy to see it for Mark Andrews. Definitely makes me happier to draft him in playoff basketball, knowing that there's still a little juice left there.
Still a little tread left on the tires.
Maybe he can make it right for me this year, because he sure cost me a whole lot of money last year. Ravens players and either dropping what looked to be, sure catches or fumbling the ball at the goal line has cost me quite a bit of money in back-to-back playoff basketball years. I'm starting to think that maybe it's just something with the Ravens, Drico. Maybe I learned my lesson, or maybe I don't, and I just triple down this year and continue to martingale the Ravens in playoff basketball.
Yeah, it's gotta work eventually.
Right. All right, I think those are all the tight ends. Let's head to the receiver charts here.
Man, it's so sad seeing Drake London up here when he has the the PCL.
Yeah, I left him on the chart for now. I just out of optimism. I'm hoping that he comes back, because he's been really good, man. With not great quarterback play. Like I mean, he really does. You get the performance, in the same game, Tet really does. I wouldn't be surprised if it's next season we're saying that Tet is the, Charizard to Drake London's Charmeleon. Like, they do seem like they are similar archetypes, but I do think Tet is a little bit more complete, or T-Mac rather. He does not enjoy Tet. But yeah, we have Drake London, who, if you made me bet on it, I would assume that he might get shut down for the season if it's serious, because you don't want to risk a player like that, and your quarterback's already done and dusted in Penix. But again, he probably is not the answer. The first note I did have on the wide receiver chart, though, is George Pickens. Pretty sure Pickens is a top 5 real life wide receiver in the league. I think it's probably like Chase, Lamb, Jefferson, Puka, Pickens. Like, JSN's in there too, but I mean,
oh damn, you didn't even mention CD Lamb.
No, I did. I put Lamb in there,
okay.
But I mean, you could make a case that Pickens is better than Lamb. Like, he's been outproducing him since Lamb has been back and healthy. So I think it's at the very least a conversation that George Pickens is a top 5 real life NFL receiver. He's absolutely a top 10 real life NFL wide receiver. If you didn't get a chance to watch that entire Raiders game, I know the Raiders aren't world beaters. George Pickens does stuff out there. The JSN catch where he reaches out his hand and just one on this, so casual, just like nothing to it. Another day at the office. George Pickens, every play looks like that. He had one where he's out of bounds in the end zone this game, and it was an absurd catch. It's not a touchdown, but he just one-hands it so easily, effortlessly, like the strongest hands in the league. I don't think that's an exaggeration at all. Like, that's one where I would, George Pickens bar for bar against anybody, as far as strongest hands. That guy is insane. My dream, my prayer is that the Cowboys do not franchise tag George Pickens and they let him hit the open market and he becomes a New England Patriot. I need to see George Pickens getting the ball thrown to him by Drake May. That's
probably the most likely. That's probably the favorite versus not versus the field, but the most likely outcome.
I think franchise tag is the most likely outcome. That's what.
Oh, you think they will tag him?
That's already the rumblings from Cowboys camp. Yeah,
I mean, that's the smart thing to do.
It is. But it's fucked up to the play. I mean, this guy literally just took a bet on himself deal to come play for you, and took a 1 year, and then to franchise tag him just seems. Yeah, the franchise tag's fucked up, man. I don't like it.
I don't know. It's anti-American.
It should. I mean, if really what it should be is that if you do franchise tag a player, the team is the one that bears the risk of injury then. Where if you're saying like, hey, we can't give you this big deal, you at least need to be the ones carrying the cost of risk. Where either the team is forking out the premium for an insurance policy for the player, where they can insure against lost future earnings, or the team has something where, hey, if this player is to get injured, if you franchise tag him, then you're on the hook for market rate, some amount, near the franchise tag for 3 years if this player gets injured during this season and doesn't get a contract commensurate with that rate. Something needs to be done to where teams can't basically hold a guy hostage like this. Who, what else is George Pickens supposed to do? Like, all he did was the right thing. He knew that he wasn't going to get paid what he's worth this year. He goes and bets on himself on a new team. He's balling out. He's playing out of his mind. And now he is probably going to get held hostage here and not paid. I mean, the Cowboys wouldn't pay Micah Parsons. It would surprise me.
Here's what's wild. Here's what's wild to me is that the Cowboys could franchise tag Pickens twice.
Yep.
And then when he finally hits the open market as a free agent, after his rookie year or his rookie contract, 2 franchise tags, he'll still only be 26.
Jeez. I mean, George Pickens, God, if he hits the open market,
but like, so I just looked up the franchise tag, and it's 25 million. Like that's below. That's actually cheating the player. Like most of the time, if you franchise tag something, that's more than they would get per year in a deal. But I think he gets 30 million easily.
Yeah, the wide receiver market as it is, right? Like, yeah, he's a 30 million
for somebody that
player.
young too.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, bring it back to, how is this applicable for fantasy? Are we just going to, circle jerk about how good George Pickens is? I mean, how it's applicable for fantasy is you just play this guy every single week, like boost the George Pickens projection. The ceiling is never accounted for in the George Pickens projection. Just know, because this guy can just go out and dominate. There's not a defender in the league where he doesn't have just absolutely dominating them and making them look like they don't belong in the NFL in the range of outcomes. And he's been projected pretty low for like the last few weeks. He's been projected relatively low. I think it's more appropriate to have him and Lamb pretty close going forward. I know that might sound a little reactionary. Oh, George Pickens just had one big game. You wouldn't be saying the same thing if Lamb caught that touchdown he should have caught on fourth down there to end the game. Like, I think this is an offense with two alphas. They do different things. Lamb is going to be the one that should earn more target volume over the course of a season, a larger sample. But Pickens is getting stuff deeper down the field. Even the after the catch stuff, like I would have given that to Lamb in the past, but my God, like if you watched George Pickens last night, after the catch, he looked like a man possessed. He's just untackleable. He's awesome. He's one of my favorite players to watch. Definitely a guy where I wish the Cowboys had a chance to make the playoffs.
I'm getting a Des Bryant feel.
Yeah, you said that last night too. That's a great
ball in the air.
That's a great comparison. Yeah,
and then in the open field, he's so dynamic.
Yeah,
so fast.
Yeah, if you think back to like what we saw for Steelers George Pickens, a lot of the Pickens big games, the Pickens big games with the Steelers were one of two things. It was either George Pickens caught a slant in the middle of the field and then he just ran through everybody. Like he just there were defenders. Right. They were in position. They had an angle. It didn't matter. This guy was just electric in open space, and you're not going to catch him. Or he catches this big deep ball down the sideline and makes an incredible acrobatic catch, and that's how you get big Pickens games, or you used to. Now it's por qué no los dos. Like he'll just do it all, and the Cowboys throw the ball enough, and Dak is a good enough quarterback that he can feed Pickens all over the field. So you have two do-it-all receivers in Pickens and Lamb, where George will more, he'll more so be the downfield threat guy, but he can operate underneath as well. And Lamb will more be the underneath and intermediate guy, but he can operate deep as well. It is such a dynamic duo. It just makes me really bummed that I'm not going to draft either of these guys in playoff best ball, because the Cowboys are basically dead to make the playoffs. But man, talk about advance rate pieces. Like even if the Cowboys were making the playoffs, we know they're dead to make a run. But man, you want like a one and done, like get my team through the first round type of player. Like George Pickens is pretty fun there. But all right, that's enough waxing poetic on George Pickens. We talked about Ricky Pearsall a little bit already. I had a note on him that he was pretty quiet in his first game back. He was out there. He just didn't earn any targets.
Not 9% targets per run, which is pretty low. Pretty low. You had 25% for Kittle. You had 25% for Jennings. You had 25% for CMC. Not a lot left for the other guys.
Do you think that's how it's going to go going forward, or do you anticipate Pearsall being able to crack into that a little more?
Not really, no.
I'm with you.
Maybe he trades the odd game with Jennings where you get a Pearsall 25% game and Jennings is quiet. But not as a matter of course, I don't think. Not as a regular thing.
Yeah. And I mean, maybe at some point Brandon Ayuk will come back. Probably not, but like Brandon comes back, I think it's curtains for old Ricky here. At least in the short term. Long term, this guy sure could, the 49ers have a lot of aging stars that they'll need someone to step up. I think he'll probably be very strong in 2027.
He strikes me as just like a kind of a journeyman type. He's going to stick in the NFL. He's going to play games like his teammate Demarcus Robinson.
No! Oh, poor Ricky. Why'd you have to?
Maybe I'm being too harsh, but
Jesus Christ!
Like just there's a guy who plays in the NFL a long time, but maybe not fantasy relevant.
Wow. Well, that's dark.
Maybe I'm being too harsh, too premature.
I apologize to the listeners if you have Ricky Pearsall bags. Trico chest. Set him in the shadow realm. The last note I had on this chart was just about Vikings pass catchers. We talked about it last week. This is not I was going to say this is not a victory lap. It's definitely a victory lap.
Absolutely is a victory lap.
It's not solely a victory lap. It is just a process thing. It is a keep your eye on this. Now, do I think the JJ McCarthy projections should be closer to correct, in future weeks going forward than they compared to how they were the last 2 weeks? Probably. Like they probably should be more correct, right? But it's just a keep an eye on it kind of thing. If you're still seeing Vikings projecting really well, that is probably a spot where you can just go in there and we talked about it before. Like, hey, it's small sample stuff. It can be hard to trust the data there. That's okay. We've watched every JJ McCarthy rep. I've watched every JJ McCarthy pass. I know what I need to know, and I know that I don't need to spend American dollars betting that JJ McCarthy is going to provide ceiling outcomes for his pass catchers. That's just not a thing that I need to be doing. Because not saying it's not possible, right? We saw Jalen Naylor have a massive game with him. Like Justin Jefferson could have good games with him. It's not to say that those things aren't possible. It's just the rate that they occur is very likely going to be overrepresented if you see good projections for these guys. Like that's all. That's all we're saying. So just keep an eye on Vikings projections going forward. It's an easy one to add some value for yourself.
Yeah, he's an easy one to get off of. Like I'm looking. So he's $5,000 in DraftKings. Trevor Lawrence 5,100. Bryce Young 5,200. Jacoby Brissett 5,300.
Jacoby Brissett all day and twice on Sundays over JJ McCarthy. My God. Like the price difference
between Bryce Young is Monday. He's Monday, so
okay.
Yeah, but yeah, it's $300 more to go from JJ McCarthy to Jacoby Brissett.
One of another one. I didn't have a note on this one, but here's one where you can go ahead and save yourself from the projection industrial complex. Darnell Mooney is going to have a monster projection with Kyle Pitts out. You can just whatever it is, divide by 2. I promise you, whatever it is, divide it by 2, you're going to do okay. Like don't do it to yourself. I'm trying to save you dollars.
So Darnell Mooney, 4,800. Meanwhile, Juwan Jennings, 4,900.
I bet you can divide the Darnell Mooney projection by 2, run your sims, you'll still get some Darnell Mooney in there. You'll just get a much more reasonable amount of Darnell Mooney. He's just gonna project for so much. There's no one there, And he was getting targets. He just can't catch them. So that is the hard part. That if you don't catch the targets, they actually don't count for any fantasy points.
Xavier Worthy, 4,700.
Not interested.
Josh Downs, 4,500.
We'll talk about Xavier Worthy on a future chart. There's a reason he's not on the 85 to 100% routes run guy.
Got it. Ready to move on?
Let's go to the next one.
Next chart. And so your first note was our cover boy, which was T-Mac, where finally big game for T-Mac. And what's crazy is, for as much as we were complaining, and I was complaining, you were complaining, very upset about the T-Mac production, he's actually wide receiver 9 in after week 11. So like, I'm pretty sure he was drafted lower than wide receiver 9. So even with the garbage, no good Bryce Young games, like, he's still doing pretty good.
He's just had so many targets and so much volume that he's been able to produce like a very consistent floor. And so, and yes, he's been very good for how it like works for us in best ball and how many points he's adding. He's not quite as good as his like total raw counting stat accumulation looks.
Right.
But he's also someone where I'm very excited down the stretch, where if you can just get Bryce Young to piece it together for a few games, just like last season, and they were moving T-Mac around more. They're having him play more in the slot and outside, which I think is how you should use a player. Like, he's like a Drake London plus. Like, he can do more than Drake London. Drake London is not much of a downfield threat, where T-Mac is more of like he's like a more complete Drake London with like a little bit of Mike Evans rolled into him. Like, he can do it all. So he is the exact type of player that you want to move around like a queen chess piece, like they do with JSN or CeeDee Lamb, like Puka, those types of guys. I mean, Puka doesn't really do a ton of stuff outside. I think the ceiling is so high on guys like this, though, where they can just become so much of an offense, because they can be two different types of players for that offense. They can just occupy multiple roles as one person. So pretty exciting for him. I mean, my prayer is that you get a new quarterback before next season. It's not Bryce Young going into next year. And ideally not Kyler Murray, because I think that Kyler Murray would probably be the absolute nut worst thing you could get for T-Mac.
Yeah, you're right. Talk about another team that can probably take on the Kyler Murray contract. It probably is the Panthers, which we would not like. I don't know why you go from Bryce Young to Kyler Murray. It's like, you know that guy who we're replacing? Let's bring in the same a very similar type of player,
just an older model,
right? I mean, probably still faster, but you're not really playing Kyler for his rushing anymore.
Yeah. Just I mean, I don't really know who you're hoping for, but you want some journeyman QB. I mean,
you want Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah, I don't know that Jacoby Brissett is. I mean, maybe he's on the market. Yeah, that whole situation is going to be interesting. There's no way a team goes with him as Plan A, though. I mean, God, can we get Jameis? Can we get Jameis? That'd be so fun.
That'd be pretty good.
No NFL team will ever do that for us, though. They hate fun.
They hate fun at interceptions.
Yeah, that part as well. The other note I had on this chart, Christian Watson is starting to become pretty interesting. He looks like he might be taking over the Packers receiver room as the alpha here. He's continuing to see his role grow. He's getting, as you would expect for Christian Watson, he's getting targets downfield. Romeo Doubs and Watson are like the clear two leaders in the clubhouse right now as far as opportunity for the Packers, but they really don't have anyone. I mean, Luke Musgrave got
Watson actually led the team in routes this week. Led the team in routes.
Luke Musgrave gets benched. Dontavion Wicks doesn't do anything. Like,
Dobbs was ahead in targets, but Watson, he gets down the field, so he led the team in air yards, routes at 80%. And that looks pretty good.
I think when you couple that with the Josh Jacobs injury, where he's probably day to day right now, you just might end up with the Packers having to lean more into the passing game, which, like, LaFleur is probably going to have a heart attack. Just he's like having cold sweats at night, not sleeping well, thinking about like, oh my God, I might have to pass above expectation. Like this is really scary for me. But I think if they do, Christian Watson would stand to benefit because he seems like the best guy in the receiver room.
He's a bit of a per yards player though, where his ADOT in the 4 games he's been back is 18, 28, 32, 17. So it's probably one of those things where he's going to hit for a massive week. But I guess he had 2 touchdowns. So last week was that massive week. But maybe what I'm saying is going to hit for massive yardage. But he's going to be pretty volatile week to week, given that he's got that kind of ADOT.
Yeah,
but Matthew Golden, like, absolutely cooked.
Yeah, it's curtains.
And with the U and the O spelling of that phrase.
Yeah, Matthew Golden, it is curtains. We were doing playoff best ball rankings and talking through Matthew Golden, and the normal like development curve and opportunity for rookies is that down the stretch, you'd expect them to get more opportunity, see their snaps rise. Matthew Golden is going the other way.
They earn more trust from the coaching staff.
Right.
And they're like, we're giving this guy a good role because we drafted him. We like him. And then the more they see of him, the less opportunity he gets.
Yeah. Matthew Golden is doing the exact opposite, where he got opportunity out of the gate because of the draft capital, and then he is playing his way into less opportunity. No way to see this coming, unfortunately. How could anyone have seen that Matthew Golden might not have been as good as the Packers thought that he was? I mean, who could have seen this? I think the other thing,
he's no longer getting all the routes.
Yeah, I think the other thing to piggyback off of the Christian Watson thing is it does make Jayden Reed kind of interesting for playoff basketball, where the Packers are this is kind of a vacuum. Like someone can step forward and claim lots of opportunity here. I think it's always going to be a spread out room, but it has been consolidating more because the guys that they've been spreading it out to stink. And so just by nature of, these players not developing in the way that the Packers, thought they might, I think that you've got a little bit of a talent vacuum here. And so if someone were to step up and really, have a big breakout game, like if Christian Watson continues this trajectory and starts converting these air yards into more consistent games, or Jayden Reed comes back and looks like I would expect Jayden Reed to, because I think he's clearly the most talented. I think Jayden Reed is the best player on offense on the Packers. Like I think, if he was on a different team, we would think totally different about Jayden Reed. Jayden Reed on the Chiefs would be like Rashee Rice.
He might be coming back soon too.
Yeah, no, his window is supposed to be active.
LaFleur. Yeah, LaFleur was asked, "Hey, are you guys planning to activate him yesterday?" And he said, "I really hope so. We'll know more in the next 2 days." And then yesterday, today, at 4:34, Jayden Reed posted a picture of himself on Instagram, like he's putting on his helmet. He's about to walk onto the field, is what it looks like to me.
Oh man!
So we could be getting Jayden Reed down the stretch.
I need it.
That would be very good.
I need it so badly, Draco. I just to have the validation to know that we were right about Jayden Reed. All right.
Fingers crossed.
Oh, okay. I had a couple good notes on this one actually. So Troy Franklin, talked about. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you have importance. If I have another funny thing to say.
Okay.
Garrett Wilson just tweeted out, any good Madden leagues these days? So we know where his head is at.
Yeah, he is not. He's not playing another snap this season. Troy Franklin, the flippening is complete. We talked about this, I think, a little bit last week, where between Franklin and Sutton, like, there's a flippening happening. The flippening has happened. Troy Franklin and Sutton are basically, I would say they're equal parts. It's not even 1A, 1B. It's just 1A, 1A. And calling either of them 1A is probably overselling it a little bit. They're both 1Bs or even 2As, as far as how many fantasy points they're actually going to score. But Troy Franklin, it really does appear like the connection with Bo Nix, the shower narrative, means a lot. Sean Payton also seems to like him. But yeah, Troy Franklin and Courtland Sutton are the same thing now. I think that's a pretty important thing to know for playoff best ball, because I can't remember off the top of my head what the ADP is. I actually can pull this up here. But the Broncos, 97% to make the playoffs and 25% to get the bye. Strong probability of making it to the conference championship as well. So they're definitely a team that's squarely on the menu. Troy Franklin, ADP of 50.
Before you start that, I just want everyone to know that those are proprietary playoff probabilities from the leg up model that you're getting a sneak peek on. You don't know how lucky you are to be getting that kind of insight.
Thank you, Draco. Draco is out here plugging for me. I'm just out here in the back end reading off of the sim results and just sharing that with the world. So yeah, I think the Courtland Sutton Troy Franklin ADP is super inefficient right now. Sutton ADP of 40, Troy Franklin ADP of 58. The Broncos ADPs in general are just bad. I mean, the day one ADPs are just atrocious. Like they have nothing to do with how you actually should be drafting these players. Like there's some correlation with the order in which these players should go, but it's not strong. It's quite poor. So if you are drafting playoff best ball already, and you know what you're doing, you're probably getting it in pretty good right here. But yeah, Troy Franklin, Courtland Sutton, that is a spot where the market is super off. Very easy to take advantage of that. Okay, the last player note I had on this chart, Jameson Williams, he remains involved. JMO, he's over here. His weighted targets per route run for the year is just above 40%, but it's trending upwards. Ever since Dan Campbell took over the play calling, JMO just continues to get fed. I've got to think that continues with the LaPorta to IR. We're just adding data points to the trend, and it is continuing. So the JMO faders might be in for a world of hurt come the fantasy playoffs here. But yeah.
So here's the other side of it. He was only at a 16% targets per route run in week 11. It just, the way that they got him targets made sense in the context of Jameson Williams. It's like I think his number of targets and was probably, it was similar. His air yards, not too far off other games, but they're just, with Dan Campbell calling the plays, they're plays that make sense. And obviously that's an emphasis of like, okay, this is a guy we just paid a lot of money to because we think he's really good. Let's when we get the ball to Jameson, and let's make sure that makes sense. And I think that's what's happening.
One note I'd have on the target share for the week 11 game, there's a lot of targets that are in that data that aren't targets, not just to Jameson, just in general. There's Jared Goff pass attempts that if you were like, hey, Sack, I want you to make me the proprietary Sack data set where I get the absolute maximum signal out of you're going to chart every game and tell me, I would straight remove like 15 of the pass attempts from this game because they're not even real. Jared Goff was throwing it And in his mind, he thought there was 0.0% chance this was ever going to be a completion.
It was I got to show it near this guy so I don't draw intentional grounding.
Yep, exactly. And so the way you would chart that if you were like trying to derive maximum signal from this in the, the statistics that we look at for a lot of these things like targets per route run and things like that, you would just say that's not even a target. It's not even an attempt. It's a drop back that ended in something.
Resulting in a throwaway.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Results in a throwaway doesn't even go into the overall like attempts volume. So just a thing worth noting. I mean, if you look at the box score for that game, Amon-Ra has 12 targets. In the real honest to God targets he had a chance to catch 5. Like there's like 7 of them that aren't just not even a prayer. Like I would have let you bet me 10,000 to 1 that target is not getting caught on 7 of those, and I would have taken all your money. But all right, I think that's the last guy on this chart, and we do have a couple on the very lowest routes run chart here.
Yeah. So moving on. Oh man, a lot of guys on here. A lot of guys. One thing that I noticed here is I almost wonder if we should push the 65 to 70% guys onto this chart.
Yeah.
Just because, I'm like, why? And I know I'm speaking out of turn here, but why do we have the 65% to 70% guys right next to the 40 to 50% guys?
Yeah. As I'm looking at all these guys, I'm trying to even think like, do we just nuke do we get rid of the 40 to 50% guys too?
Yeah, it's just not relevant. I mean, I like that for the rookies, but at this stage of the game, like the start part of the season, we take that out for sure.
Yeah. It might be something where at the start of next year, we still keep the 40 to 50s, but after we get through week, 9, 10, we just cut out those bottom guys and make this chart a little more readable. I think that's a good call. So I've got four players I wanted to talk about here. 3 are like positive vibes ish. One is like, barely could be considered positive vibes. The other one's a negative vibes. Which do you want to start with?
Okay, let's get our tough medicine, our tough to hear medicine out of the way.
All right,
and then we want the good vibes.
Here it goes. We're gonna rip the Band-Aid off. All off season, I said Xavier Worthy was fancy Rasheed Shaheed, and I was pretty staunchly opposed to where his price was. Thought it was a little silly. Thought there was a fundamental difference between how his rookie season went and how Rashee Rice's rookie season went, and that it was not appropriate to attribute the same trajectory to Xavier Worthy as Rashee Rice. It turns out fancy Rasheed Shaheed is far too kind for Xavier Worthy. You wish Xavier Worthy was Rasheed Shaheed. That would be phenomenal if Xavier Worthy got the outcome of Rasheed Shaheed. It turns out that Xavier Worthy is in the same category as Tyquan Thornton. In fact, Xavier Worthy basically just is Tyquan Thornton. He is Tyquan Thornton in the same offense. He just happens to start over Tyquan Thornton. But yeah, if you just 1-for-1 replace him, it's really not all that different. It just is what it is for Xavier Worthy. Probably a guy that gets massively overdrafted in playoff best ball. If I look at the Xavier Worthy ADP right now, he's actually okay. Currently, his ADP is 60, but I almost guarantee after a day of people drafting that he does get steamed up a little bit. And if the Chiefs start winning games, he'll just go massively.
Yeah, very very secondary receiver here. Don't very often see his speed connecting in the way that we thought it would. Don't see the kind of yak that we'd want to see. Very disappointing for sure.
I think part of it's on Mahomes.
I don't think he actually belongs on this chart. The only thing I'm going to say is I think it's being skewed a little bit because he was 2% in week 1 with the big injury. So I think that's why he's like every other game he's been above 70%. So maybe I need to code that differently so that
takes him out of this this chart.
You're wanting to promote Xavier Worthy. I do to like give a little bit of
Well, just to make it accurate, like he runs.
I agree.
Routes than these other guys.
I do want to say I do think part of Xavier Worthy's lack of appeal is partially on Mahomes. Mahomes has not been good with the deep ball. I mean, for the whole 2 seasons Worthy has had with them, like it's just been misconnection after misconnection. Like, you want to talk about why Drake May is the best quarterback in the league right now. Drake May has hit Xavier Worthy for 10 touchdowns at this point. Patrick Mahomes just misses him. Drake May puts it, on an absolute dot. It's basically a handoff down the field if he's throwing the ball to Xavier Worthy. Like, that is just the difference between the guy who is the very best and the guy who is the second best or the third best quarterback in the league. But it is cool to watch someone separate like that. And I do think that part of Xavier Worthy's woes are he's not solely to blame. He could be doing Rasheed Shaheed things in a different offense. He would be an awesome receiver for the Patriots to have, where Drake May just gets to chuck it downfield while he burns guys. All right, that's all the unfun stuff. We'll go in order of like gross and barely fun.
I looked at ESPN Open Score just to see if I could make some kind of case that like he's getting open downfield, but no, he's like wide receiver 70 in Open Score, and that's not fun. Or receiver 70, because this includes tight ends.
Yuck.
And so, okay, on to more positive things.
Gabe Davis is back.
Gabe Davis is back. Oh, okay.
I told you this one was barely positive. But you know what? If you were just feeling nostalgic, you wanted to have Gabe Davis in playoff best ball to, put up a massive, 4-touchdown game or something to really make it feel like, Bills of old, where he's the guy you got to have to advance through the rounds. He's now back on the menu. He's pretty involved in his first game back with the team. They tried to feed him in the end zone.
Heavily targeted. So he only had a 45% route rate.
He drops the touchdown.
45% route rate, but he gets 27% targets per run. So on how many? He had 4 targets. He caught 3 of them. I guess the one was the touchdown that he dropped. So I guess part of the Keon Coleman benching was getting Gabe Davis out there. I guess Gabe Davis is just that. Imagine if Keon Coleman was an NFL quality receiver.
Yeah, it's every time a Keon Coleman is benched, a Gabe Davis gets his wings.
Okay, now on to actual fun stuff.
These ones are fun, yeah.
So honestly, the main reason we have this chart is to track the rookies. If it weren't for the rookies, I would not care about this chart at all. Where Luther Burden, he gets up to a 61% route share, and finally takes over Olamide Zaccheaus. I think that the route share probably would have been higher if Cole Kmet and Loveland didn't get so many snaps. And it looks like they played a lot of 2 tight end sets. So the slot receiver didn't play as much. But he did see 23% targets per run. He got 5 targets. It was only 3 receptions for 27 yards. So it's like, it's for a game where we got a lot of what we've been looking for, it's kind of tepid. But this is one where I don't know if I'm quite ready to start him in managed, but we're right there. We're right on the cusp of Luther Burden being a very startable managed player, I think. Boy,
do I have some best ball teams that would kill for some Luther Burden. If you could give me just 2 Luther Burden like legitimate spike weeks, I'm talking 20 plus fantasy points, I would be such a happy man. That'd be so good for me. It feels like we'll have a chance. The other guy that is also pretty fun is Jayden Higgins, who finally, for the first time this season, ran more routes than the very formidable Xavier Hutchinson. I believe Hutchinson is still sub 1 yards per route run. Is that correct? He might have cracked 1 yards per route run now. But with competition that stiff, you understand why Jayden Higgins can't run more routes than that guy. Like, how do you take that off the field? But no, the Texans continue to be extraordinarily frustrating, but Jayden Higgins is looking good.
0.94.
Nice.
0.94 yards per run. But did Jayden Higgins takeoff is here. Where he's fine. So he still only had I guess he still only had a 57% route share.
Correct.
So when he had an 81% route share, I think based on some injuries, but he's had 2 games in a row now, 3 out of the last 4 with 7 targets, and he is producing with those targets. So and then the Miko Ryan is like, hey, we're taking the rookie tag off. We don't have any more rookies now. These are our guys. I guess this is another one where it's like he's like right there in terms of being startable. He's right there, not quite there yet, but it's coming.
Yeah, I call bullshit on the we're taking the rookie tag off, because if you were, Jalen Knoll would be playing Christian Kirk would not see the field. Christian Kirk would be a game day inactive if you were taking the rookie tag off. Jalen Knoll looks sick anytime he's on the field. Like, he's just nice. I mean, he looks better than Higgins. Clearly. I don't think it's that, I think it's pretty hard to debate otherwise. They're different. They're very different in what they can do and offer for the offense. But, like, those aren't the 2 that are competing for snaps. So you're not having Higgins and Knoll compete with each other. You're having Christian Kirk keep Jalen Knoll off the field, which makes exactly 0 sense. I mean, just please play your best player, man. Please. But I don't know. They continue to be very frustrating, but it does look like Higgins is going to get there before Knoll. God, I this feels like the prototypical spot, though, where these guys both should come on down the stretch, man. Like, they're good. The competition is for snaps is Hutchinson and Christian Kirk. Like, you have to be seeing more of these guys. Like,
I can't wait to draft them next year.
I don't know, man. I'm a little worried about drafting Texans passing game. They better be real cheap again. If I'm gonna,
I think these guys will be cheap.
Yeah. No, you're not wrong. I mean, shit. It's like you, me, probably like 120 slappies that even know who Jalen Knoll is. Like, there's not a broad audience that are in the market for Jalen Knoll. So.
Yeah. That's a contrarian play for sure. But I think that covers us this week, right?
Yeah, that is everybody. We, as a show note, programming note, we'll be taking next week off for the Thanksgiving holiday. Sorry, everybody, you're going to have to survive a week without stat chasing, but we'll be picking it up the very next week. So we will not be seeing you on Tuesday the 25th. We will be back on December the 2nd for stat chasing. And that will be week 13, the penultimate week before the final regular season week for fantasy football.
Yeah, that'll be one of the last ones. So looking forward to it. And thanks for joining us again, everyone.